So how many of you have already sampled Parfums and Montale's latest fragrance, which is actually a Harrods exclusive called Haltane, this right here. So I actually discussed this a few weeks ago in my anticipation video of fragrances that are launching soon or have just launched. And I have this, I've had it for about 4 days now. I ordered it on Black Friday from Harrods back when the Black Friday sales were happening. And you know, I'm a little let down with this one because I expected something very, very unique and original, especially after it's considered an exclusive. But I got something that I'm very familiar with. Well, either way, I'm going to let you know all about Parfums and Montale's latest fragrance, Haltane, which is an exclusive to Harrods. All coming right up. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is Sebastian, and yes, today I'm talking about Haltane, a fragrance from the house of Parfums and Montale, and it comes in this most beautiful Harrods color of the green. To me, this is kind of like an olive green, maybe a little cypress green, but a beautiful color. I really love it, and it seems that every single Harrods exclusive fragrance gets this color treatment with their bottles. But and typically, one other thing, I think all of the bottle caps for Montale are silver. This one is gold. I could be wrong though. But you know, I was very excited about this when I saw it. I love the bottle. I love the whole idea that it says exclusive on it. But as I said, I'm a little let down with this one just because it's very, very familiar with it. So anyway, I'll let you know all about this. Before I do, if this is your first time tuning into the channel and you still haven't subscribed, please do click the subscribe button below and also click the bell so that you'll be notified for future videos and giveaways. So this is currently selling at Harrods. It's exclusive. You can order it from Harrods to ship to the States. It's very expensive. You're also going to have to pay $45 shipping from Harrods unless they have something like the Selfridges yearly shipping membership thing where you get free shipping all year round and you pay one lump sum. But I haven't seen it at Harrods. So it could end up costing you a lot of money. But this is a 2021 launch. Again, Harrods exclusive. The 125 ml bottle is $340, but that's the conversion price, meaning if it was selling here, I'm sure it would be suggested retail more than $340. Concentration is Eau De Parfum. There is no known perfumer for this one. It was not listed anywhere, so I couldn't figure it out. And the way I got the notes is I looked up various different databases, including Harrods' website, to see what the notes are, or at least to see what they are. And I'm going to tell you what I'm experiencing with the notes here. But for notes, there's Bergamot, Lavender, Clary Sage, Saffron, Praline, Cedarwood, Oud, and Elderwood. So the notes sound great. When I saw Praline there, I thought this is going into a gourmand direction, but in absolutely no way this goes into a gourmand direction. Do I even get pralines from this particular fragrance? I don't get pralines. I don't get chocolate whatsoever. I don't get the whatever kind of sweet touches there are in pralines featured in this. Yeah, it can get sweet. This particular fragrance does have some sweetness. But for me, it's kind of like an explosion of lavender, very, very aromatic, with the clary sage note. And then there's that familiar reminder of something like from a sister house of Parfums and Montale, Oud for Greatness. Yeah, I'm reminded of Oud for Greatness, and it's not similar, it's not identical. But then again, I'm also reminded of the other fragrance that came out, Oud for Happiness. But both of these are not Harrods exclusive. Yeah, it reminds me of the combination of both Oud for Greatness and Oud for Happiness. But again, not identical, but it like really totally reminds me of those fragrances. And I'm like, I've smelled this before. I don't find it to be much of an exclusive, if at all. I can already get those two fragrances. But for me, it's a blast of light citruses with the very, very aromatic and spicy experience of lavender and the clary sage, right? So those come in. And I think the saffron and praline, to me, are more heart notes. And Saffron to me does get to be, you know, aromatic and leathery. There's a little bit of a leathery touch here, but it's not like you're wearing a leather fragrance. It's more of the, you know, it's very dry, and then it's also aromatic in a way that it's spicy. So Saffron has these touches, and it does have a very light leathery touch. But again, the Praline is kind of missing for me, except for its sweetness. I think basically the Praline is there to be suggested as a sweet experience, because I don't get much chocolatey experience with the Praline in here, but there is, like I said, that's sweetness from that Praline note. But you know, the fragrance eventually gets all woody. There's the oud experience here, and to me, I wouldn't call this an oud fragrance, just like I never called. Okay, I would call it an oud fragrance, but it's more of an oudy wood, and more, you know, stressing on the wood rather than the oud. It's just not that kind of an oud fragrance. And same with this one. It's not necessarily an ultra oudy fragrance. It's more of a woody oud experience. And there's that whole reminder also of the whole Baccarat Rouge thing, where this one does have that smell, that kind of like a ambroxan or ambergris Baccarat Rouge kind of smell that's in here, which is also in here as well. So that's pretty much what the fragrance is. It's very aromatic. It's a very dry experience. It has pretty nice projection, but I wouldn't call it an ultra beefy fragrance. It's not dense. The dryness, but with a lot of projection, there is a little bit of the airiness about it, so it doesn't wear thick and heavy. Now that's my experience. Some of you might think it's a heavy fragrance. I'm not getting the heaviness with this one. And again, it's not very original, so I was bummed about it, because, you know, it's being called this exclusive fragrance. It's not what we're getting, because you can already get those in those, you can already get it in those two fragrances, as I said. To me, it smells more like Oud for Greatness, with a little reminder of Oud for Happiness, but not identical. Just will be that reminder in there. But it's not just those two fragrances. There's a few other fragrances that it reminds me of. It reminds me a little bit of Elixir, or maybe even the Parfum of Sauvage, a little bit. I find Elixir and Parfum of Sauvage to be a lot more syrupy, thick and gooey, whereas Haltane to me is very dry. It's a very dry experience. And then I'm also going to mention, it reminds me of a few other fragrances. Arabians from Montale. Not Arabians Tonka, because Arabians versus Arabians Tonka, they smell nothing alike. It reminds me a little bit of that because it has lavender, and then also Black Gold from Mancera. So I felt like Haltane is a very kind of Montale Mancera-esque kind of a fragrance, with that whole reminder of Oud for Greatness, and of course a little bit of Oud for Happiness. So basically they've done that. They've given this to us as kind of like a very Middle Eastern style fragrance, with this kind of like so-called oudiness, and that whole kind of Baccarat Rouge kind of a smell in there in the background. You know, for some people it's going to be a great fragrance, but for me, I'm saying it's actually been there, done that. It's already reminding me of a fragrance that already exists. So that's why this fragrance is a disappointment for me. But I can see Harrods trying to create something that's very, very successful, like, you know, Oud for Greatness. And I should say Initio Parfums and Parfums and Montale are somehow related. So I can see that they're pulling fragrances or fragrance ideas, or you know, recipes from one fragrance to the other, because this one does really, really remind me of Oud for Greatness, and that's one of the reasons why I'm a little let down with it, and the fact that it's become, or being called, a Harrods exclusive, and I feel like I'm not getting something really, really exclusive, especially since I've already you know, smelled it. But those of you that don't know Oud for Greatness, don't know a lot of the fragrances I mentioned here, might smell this for the first time and be wowed by it. And then there's that. I get to test and experience a lot of fragrances, so I'm not really wowed by it. I'm a little let down by it. But those of you that haven't smelled all these fragrances could smell this one day and say, oh my God, that's the best smelling fragrance. I wouldn't call it a bad fragrance. It's, as I said, it's just a letdown that I've already smelled something like this, and that makes for a disappointing experience. And these are my thoughts, my own opinions. As I said, some of you might like this, some of you might want an alternative to Oud for Greatness with a little bit of Oud for Happiness thrown in. And it's kind of an odd, discovery. Like, as I said, the greens of both of these are kind of similar, as you can see. And again, Marley and Initio are, sister companies or brands. So it's a given that it would kind of smell like Oud for Greatness. But let me know if you've sampled Haltane from Parfums and Montale. What do you think about it? Are you let down a bit because it does remind you of Oud for Greatness? Or maybe it just doesn't remind you of Oud for Greatness or some of the other fragrances I mentioned. Put that down. I'd like to find out because, noses are all different. People smell different things. I'm reminded of these fragrances when I'm testing them side by side. They're completely different fragrances, but when I first was wearing it, I received packages at home, so I didn't have all these other fragrances at home. When I was wearing it and testing it, I was like, why am I getting this Oud for Greatness, Oud for Happiness thing? Yeah, you will be reminded, but when you're doing this test strips or smelling them side by side, they'll be different fragrances. Anyway, those are my thoughts on Haltane from Parfums and Montale. Let me know if you have sampled it. Let me know if you're curious to try it. Let me know if you're a fan of Parfums and Montale. Let me know if you're a fan of Initio Parfums and the other fragrances I mentioned, because if you have smelled some of the other fragrances, I think you will be reminded of them. But more for the Initio fragrances and less of the other fragrances. And I think the reason why the Montale and Mancera remind me of Haltane is both of them features lavender. And same with Sauvage from Dior. Both of those also feature lavender. So I think that's what's giving me that kind of a reminder, this lavender kind of connection between all the fragrances. Anyway, thanks so much for watching today's video review for Parfums and Montale's Haltane. Let me know your thoughts on this fragrance. If you have any questions or comments, put it down. Other than that, please like this video, please share it. Follow me on Facebook and Instagram, and I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye.